much. Well, you know what? I think because I'm looking on. Hi, everybody. Because I'm looking on the with the filter on there, night filter, so it doesn't bother my eyes so much. You're a little yellow, so your color's off. I should turn it off and look. But I did look at the shot before. But like all the red and then the red, you're really pink on my screen. I think it's just the colors changed though. I hope everybody at home who's watching early, let us know how our shots look. Let us know. Critique New Jersey Revolution Radio as we try to grow this thing. We're going to get started. Start your share parties. We've got a really, everything we do feels so important, doesn't it, Diane? I mean, geez. We're going to talk tonight about incarceration, immigration. We have ICE detention center, ICE concentration camps right by me. There were some protests today led by Pax Christi and all this. So I'm going to get the show started because we are ready. So share out and let's do this. Here we go.
Mm-hmm.
Good evening, everybody. This is Brian. It's Wednesday night. It's 8 p.m. So you could be watching us on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. I don't really care as long as you are watching and you're listening and you're participating. If you want to participate in the show, if you want to ask a question, you can make a comment on YouTube or Facebook, and we'll see it here. Take it in and put it up on the screen sometimes, depending on how good it is. But also, we encourage some show involvement, so take a look at that. Our sponsor tonight is Hub City Smokes, 84 Patterson Street in New Brunswick, New Jersey. D down there, I know they're not open. They're not an essential business, so I can't say go down there. But the guy's been supportive of New Jersey Revolution Radio. He didn't call me and ask for his sponsorship money back. He's a good dude. We have a lot of conversations when I go down there to buy my glass and stuff. And so, D, I hope wherever you are and whatever you're doing. And we talked earlier, like a little while ago. I haven't talked to him in a few days now, though. But I know he watches the show and stuff. So, D, whatever you're doing, I hope you're doing well. And man, I need a bowl. I cracked my bowl, so I got to get back to you on that. But anyway. Diane Moxley, my comrade, is here. Been in self-isolation for how long now, Diane?
Are we coming up on, it'll be 3 weeks on Saturday?
Wow. That's for you personally. I don't know when to say, like I was going to the store a little bit more, and then I wouldn't say like completely cut myself off, but I became like progressively more careful. It wasn't like anybody, like I've thought back through the progress here. And, I think when we're all being critical of other people and of the system, we should look at how we developed into where we are now, because I'm not a paranoid dude. You know me, like I ain't running around washing my hands every couple of seconds. And I think Diane froze there. So we'll just take her off screen for a minute until she gets back live. But, because I know she wouldn't appreciate bad shots. Diane's concerned about shots, as everybody should. But I know when we're thinking about, these systemic issues and stuff, we also have to think about our own progress to where we are now, as far as being aware of these essential and very important issues. So Diane's back, I think, here. Okay, there you are, Diane. Yeah, I took you off screen. You had a frozen screen. Yep. It did not look too good, so I just got a studio.
Yeah.
But some of the issues that have been popping up, we were talking before the show just a little bit about rent strikes and some of these kind of other things gaining a little more highlight in the system. And Diane, what do you know about rent strikes and why are they cropping up in the middle of a pandemic?
Well, we could talk about a couple of different things. The first issue is we know we've had mass layoffs since we've had this shutdown of non-essential businesses. I thought I heard an estimate today of something about 43 million unemployed, which sounds a little bit off the hook to me, but I know that it's
you have to work for it. How many people how many people even work in this country? 43 million. That's like
Yeah. I mean, I don't quote me, but just that there are record-breaking unemployment filings. So it doesn't matter what the number is. We know that it's
3.5 million, 3.2 million.
Huge. It's absolutely huge.
3.2 2 million was the number of filings I heard last week.
And maybe the 43, which sounds insane, somebody might have been projecting, and I don't know where that exactly comes from, but we all know it's bad. Unemployment, websites are crashing all over the country, right?
Yeah, we had some issues here at New Jersey Revolution Radio with our streaming service, and we're seeing, the ripple effects into that even. So with the rent strikes, obviously, so April 1st is today, not the traditional April Fool's Day where it's a little bit lighthearted. And I even like to make a joke on Facebook on April Fool's Day. I always find it a good opportunity to tell people that I've turned to the Democratic Party and I'll be running for city council to change things from the inside. That's kind of a running joke with me. I probably used it too many times. People may onto it so far, but why on this day, so on this first of the month, people's rent is due. They just went out of work. I'm reading a lot of posts where people are just saying, like, I just used the last of my money on rent. Like, that's like I think a lot of people did pay their rent, even though there's some talk of it, but I have read. So let's just say we take root in a rent strike that's just because people don't have any damn money, and they've taken whatever unemployment compensation, whatever, and spent it on food and other things. What happened on May 1st, right?
Well, my concern is that right now we have a moratorium on evictions, which actually means the part of the process that locks you out. It does not mean, if you look at the governor's order, it says that during the state of emergency, there will be no evictions, which are the lockouts that come from an eviction proceeding or a foreclosure proceeding. But it does not mean that a landlord can't file. The courts right now are having a lot of difficulties, so I'm not even sure right now what can be filed with landlord-tenant, but the governor's order does not say that evictions can't be filed. It's just that the lockout order can't be effectuated by the sheriff's department that comes around and actually locks you out of your home. So one thing I'm concerned about with rent strikes, if you don't have community support, if you aren't building up a tenants organization, and if you don't have a plan from community orgs, I'm worried that when the shit hits the fan at the end of the state of emergency, and at the end of, the governor can extend it for up to 2 months past the state of emergency. I'm concerned that if people don't have the proper support, we're going to have a massive wave of people being locked out of their homes. Non-payment of rent, the defense to that, I mean, there's certain things you could do procedurally, and you should talk to an attorney if you are served with something, a summons and complaint for an eviction hearing. But generally speaking, in New Jersey, the only defense for non-payment of rent is payment, unless there's other issues about habitability. So I'm very concerned that we're going to have people that.
Yep, we are.
What?
You were breaking up a little bit there, but you're back.
Okay. Did you lose? Where did I?
Just the last sentence or so. You're good. Keep going.
Okay. So I'm just worried that people are jumping on this rent strike bandwagon. I even know some comrades out there that are tooting the rent strike theme, and they're not even renters. So just be careful. Make sure you have support. And I know there's a lot of orgs in New Jersey. I'm working with some people right now that we want to do organizing. We want to do video Zoom conferences to get people information for what's going on and prepare them for, like I said, there's no other better phrase for me to use than when the shit hits the fan. People have a misconception that they don't have to pay rent. And yeah, you're going to be protected from being locked out, but these hearings can move quickly and they are not always that easy to undo. So talk to your community support, talk to your mutual aid.
There we go. So while Diane's on there, we got saying we need Bernie. No, we don't need Bernie. Ryan, we don't need Bernie. Bernie is not the answer. Bernie. Jesus. Oh, here's Diane. Hey, Diane. There you go. Okay.
Hello. Sorry.
Last 30 seconds ago, we're gone. But that's it. I was talking. And there you go. So you were talking about groups, though. Are there specific groups that people can reach out to in New Jersey? I know that there's some legal assistance for people through legal services program, right? And other kind of public, is there public assistance, I guess, is maybe what I want to ask first. And then are there other private groups out there that may help if you're in a situation where rent is an issue? And then I'll talk a little bit about like the rent strike, because I understand your concerns on it.
Yeah. If you need legal assistance, there's a really great tenants' rights handbook on the Legal Services of New Jersey website. So check that out. In New Jersey, the Department of Community Affairs has a homelessness prevention project. I'm worried that program is going to be, in dire straits with the flood of applications. But please look at the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs website. There's information there. And, go on your local mutual aid. If you if you search mutual aid in your regions, you might find a group. And I know there are groups forming. Going to try to do creative things to get people through it.
All right. Well, I hope when you get a chance, please you share those links out for us, and we'll make sure that we try to get them out through our network. Ryan, while you were breaking up a little there, mentioned that we need Bernie. I don't think Bernie has anything to do with anything. Stop dragging politics into everything. God damn it. Look, what we need is people helping people right now. And the government is there, and it's doing some good things. Like I've said, I'm not a guy that believes in this government at all by any stretch of the imagination, but there are services there for an emergency right now. So let's make sure that we participate in what we can to help our families. Now, as far as calling for a rent strike, that's up to the renters. It really is, Diane. I'm the kind of organizer, and I've gotten involved in, we need to, I would always check my privilege at the point of telling people that are, I happen to be a guy that the bank owns my home. I don't exactly call myself a property owner. But I have a little bit of a process there because they have to foreclose and whatnot. I have my own insecurities, but I wouldn't heap it upon, but I guess if the sentiment is there, and as purported Marxists, and people, and I see organizations like DSA and other radical organizers that we know personally, I don't have to list off the names, who we're talking about, who are advocating for this rent strike. And it's hard for me. I don't want to completely knock that down either, because, if it becomes a positive force out of this whole disaster that we're just starting, I wouldn't say don't do a rent strike. I would say, if renters are into this thing, they deserve the support of people who have resources, right? So if you're a person who has some money who can donate to someone, if there's a private organization helping renters with this assistance, then that may be your role in a rent strike. But it's not necessarily one where you're telling people who rent for a living that they need to go on strike. And I think that's you bring up a good point, right, of privilege, that we have to make sure that we're making sure that the needs are met, material needs are being met. But also, if they want to have a revolution, this is Revolution Radio, isn't it? Right? I mean,
oh yeah, I'm not stopping from any strike. I just want there's the buzz phrase rent strike, and if you're in a 2 or 3 family house and you do a rent strike by yourself, you're just going to be thrown out. I'm not telling you not to do it, but I'm telling you to educate yourself, organize, get community support. What is it you're demanding? What is it you're seeking? What's that?
Organize. That's my favorite
Organize.
word. My favorite word. Because
Strength in numbers.
That's it. I think you hit the nail on the head. So you got to move forward with your comrades. That's how you do it. That's how we do it at New Jersey Revolution Radio. it's time for a couple of commercials. If you want to have a commercial on New Jersey Revolution Radio, you can email us info@njrevolutionradio.com, or if you click on our show's banner on the new website, www.njrevolutionradio.com, you'll see a sponsor a show program. You can see right now down on the bottom, there's a little banner. And during the show, part of my job here at New Jersey Revolution Radio is I click the banner and I make it say different things. So right now I'm going to talk about a commercial, and that banner ad is $10. It's $10. You get a guaranteed 3 minutes. Right now we're not filled up, so you get more, and you'll see our first banner ad tonight, and even get a free little read right now, which I'm going to give to you as soon as I pull up the email that I thought I had ready. I've been doing this a lot lately, and I'm sorry to Roxanne Sataki over at the Cherry Hill Women's Center. They are having a fundraiser right now. I think we all know that we all had plans. We all had plans, right? And all those plans have been shot to hell. So while we are so the one of the critical services that is out there is abortion services, and even more critical are these independent abortion providers like the Cherry Hill Women's Center that are involved in this network, who provide even the later term abortions, which you hear so much about, and you hear so many older white men who think it's their right to tell women what they should do. That's resulted in real legal action against women's bodies. And right now, because of what's going on in COVID in Texas and in other states, abortion centers are closed. They have been told that they are not essential services. Women need these services. They are life-saving services. And so right now, there's an extraordinary need to be able to fly women who are in need of critical services in the middle of a pandemic and get them to either the Cherry Hill Women's Center or someplace else in the country where they can, get these services. So part of the donations, and I'll refer you to their website. You can see it scrolling across the banner right now if you're watching on the live stream. But for those of you who listen to our podcast, I want to make sure that you go to it's HTTPS let me try that again one more time. https://fund.nnaf.org/NJAAF_fundathon. All right, so check that out one more time. fund.nnaf.org/NJAAF_fundathon. Check it out. We will put links if you didn't get that. We'll put links on our website and such. Also, Hub City Smokes, our main sponsor for the show. Glass, CBD oils, all that kind of stuff. Vape, all that is there. 84 Patterson Street. They are our main sponsor for tonight's show and for a full month of NJRR Live here. And Justice Rountree, who will be here soon, is not here. But I will plug whatever he wants towards the end of the show. Diane, I am going to allow in our guests here, Allegra and Kathy O'Leary. I did have a great brief conversation with Allegra earlier today. Very nice to meet you, and thanks for all you do. I can't wait to hear this interview. Kathy, I've been working with off and on different projects, making certain various self-important individuals miserable, and it's been great fun with you, Kathy. You got a great spirit. She doesn't take a lot of credit. She's one of those organizers, when you always call her, she always wants to put somebody else in the limelight. She always feels like, somebody else can talk about this, somebody else can talk about that. But when she talks about it, she talks about it with great passion, and I feel with great authority as well. So Kathy, thanks for organizing. Thank you for being so humble in your work, and thanks for joining us on tonight's show. I'm going to step off so my comrade can host this very important panel, and I will pop in Justice Rountree as soon as I see him in studio. All right?
Okay. See you later. Okay, so this evening we have immigration and incarceration during COVID-19. Everything has its own special set of problems that we're dealing with. And so this evening we have with us Kathy O'Leary, who's with Pax Christi, and you also organize with Resist the Deportation Machine, correct?
Yes.
Yep. And you guys had an ICE action this afternoon in downtown Newark. Is that correct?
Yeah, we were downtown. We were outside the federal building. We circled the federal building with our cars, did the honking protest that's been so popular. And then we drove down to the jail, which is about 15 minutes away. and did a similar action outside the jail, which resulted in me getting 5 tickets.
Was that the detention center in Elizabeth or the facility in Newark?
It was the Essex County Jail.
Okay. Well, thank you for your service, but I'm sorry you received motor vehicle tickets.
Yeah, it was really very kind of interesting. I got improper use of horn, which was interesting because I wasn't using my horn. I was actually blasting my radio because I had gotten tired of using my horn. But it was kind of they cut me off and kind of forced me to stop. So then charged me with like stopping and parking in a non-parking zone.
Unlawfully or something. Oh my God.
So it's unlawful parking. So it'll be interesting. Something I have to deal with. The tickets aren't for till June. And actually, there was a car behind me. Had a couple other organizers in it, and they got the same thing, even though they were immediately behind me, and they also had no choice but to stop. And then there was a third car that stopped to film us, and they got a similar ticket too. So it was, but we had annoyed them for quite some time before this all happened. So.
Yeah, I've been seeing some of these drive and beep actions in the age of COVID-19 in our area, which is a definite hotspot for this virus, unfortunately. So I guess now they're on to you guys and they're going to try to disrupt, right? They're disrupting.
Yeah, they tried to ignore us for a long time, but then we did get we just kept at it, and until you're in trouble when the sheriff's officers show up, because just the normal corrections officers and the Newark police really don't care. When the sheriff's officers show up, you're embarrassing their boss Joe D and Armando Fontoura, who, interestingly enough, both have were just tested positive with COVID-19. So
both of them, right?
Both of them, yes. Which we don't wish ill on anybody, but it's just interesting that they're still claiming that there's no COVID in the jail. There's been four guards to have tested positive. So.
Okay, and we're gonna dive in one moment, but I want to introduce our other guest. We have Allegra Love. She is an immigration attorney and the executive director of the Santa Fe Dreamers Project in New Mexico. They provide free legal representation to immigrants and refugees in the Southwest. And they work on nationwide projects to abolish ICE detention. So I believe Allegra also has some experience with what's going on with ICE in the age of COVID-19. What areas are you most in contact with right now?
Well, I have a lot of experience with trying to get people out of ICE detention and abolish ICE detention way before COVID-19. I've been working on trying to abolish ICE detention ever since the Obama administration started detaining families on the U.S. border in 2014. Mm-hmm. And so these last few weeks, though, we've gone through so much, including, kids in cages, family separation. And these last few weeks have been some of the most horrifying in my career, trying to deal with this agency that has just like a monstrous lack of interest in public health and trying to get our clients, enforce our clients' rights not to have their bodies confined in jails at this moment in a nationwide level. Most specifically, I've been working with detention centers in the Southwest, but my organization does a lot of representation transgender folks who are detained in ICE detention. So we've been working on a nationwide push to release our trans brothers and sisters from ICE detention.
Okay. Yeah, that might be a group we don't always hear that much about. Do they face a different set of struggles and harassment while going through detention?
Yeah, I mean, everyone is facing the same threat right now in ICE detention. Young, old, trans, cisgender, whatever country they're from. This disease does not discriminate. But trans folks in general face a lot of abuse and neglect and discrimination in the detention setting, which makes their access to medical care really terrible. And there's been a long documented history of transgender people having really, really poor medical care in the facility, in ICE facilities, which means they're just really vulnerable population and at risk. And so, but I think it's really important to say that like, everyone's at risk. Yeah. And in fact, the CDC's page about detention suggests that confinement, whether in detention or jail, any confinement situation, might actually put someone at elevated risk because it's really hard to keep your immune system healthy in detention. My clients are sick all the time before there was a global outbreak. And the hygiene's bad, the medical service is bad, the sanitation's bad, the food is terrible, they don't get any rest, they don't get any fresh air. And so my argument is that they're already immunocompromised by the mere fact that they're in jails and detention centers.
So that unto itself is an additional vulnerability than what our community at large is facing.
Yeah, and unfortunately, ICE seems to be treating this as politics as usual and just sort of like keeping up this idea that by keeping 40,000 immigrants in detention centers, they're protecting our national security. Well, right now, whatever that threat to national security is, and everyone has a different opinion of what it is far less important than the public health crisis that looms. That is a far bigger threat to our national security than any single immigrant could be, especially considering there are alternatives to detention. If you really think someone is a danger to a community, you can put a GPS monitor on them and let them go home. Yeah. But that's not what they're choosing to do. And day by day by day, they're imperiling not just all the people in the jail and detention ecosystems, but in the hospital. When there's outbreaks in these places, they're going to need to rely on our frontline medical workers and our hospitals and all of our communities to help. And it's just like the ecosystems of jail and detention and our communities are going to merge.
Yeah. I'm sure people who are mislabeled a threat to their communities, but there are plenty that can be released and given hearing dates. They're connected to their communities, they work, their children are in the school systems. So release them and give them hearing dates. Let them meet with their attorneys in sane environments where they have attorney-client privilege and access, right?
Yeah. Well, to be like 100% clear, again, like I'm a lawyer, this is what I do for a living. They can legally release 100% of the people who are in detention. There's no regulatory scheme that says some of these people have to stay in. It's in the Immigration and Nationality Act. It's this thing called humanitarian parole, which specifically contemplates letting people out of detention when there's a significant public interest and there's a humanitarian issue, which this isn't even arguable. This definitely is both of those things. And so they could release everyone with a stroke of a pen tomorrow. But every passing day that these quarantines break out, that becomes much more of a calculated, a difficult calculation, right? Because there's going to be infected people who we can't release into communities. It's a nightmare. And if they'd done this 3 weeks ago, it wouldn't be a nightmare.
Yeah, but they can go back to their homes and isolate at home. Because we have families right now where you might have 4 or 5 people in a home and one person is isolated in that home from the others. So just because there's a quarantine in a detention facility doesn't mean you have to keep them there.
Right. And ultimately, they should be in charge of their own bodies and the decisions about their own bodies. Like, that's what this is about. And I urge people who are thinking about how scared they are right now, like, we're all scared.
Yeah.
And now imagine the things that we know we can do to protect ourselves. Wash our hands, keep our distance, keep our immune system strong. These people have no choice around. There's no sanitation. There's no soap. There's 50 people to a room. These people are still shoulder to shoulder in these detention centers. Can you imagine how afraid? I'm afraid, and I'm in my house with everything I possibly need. Can you imagine how afraid they must be?
There's no 6 feet.
Oh, it's so undignified.
Social distancing. They can't social distance. And I'm glad Kathy is back with us. And I'm just curious with either of you, do you know the number of those currently detained who have tested positive for COVID-19? I'm sure those figures are hard to get, but what information have you guys been able to obtain?
Go ahead, Kathy.
Here's the issue. I mean, even in Jersey, we don't know if you have tested positive when you're immunity, right? We're not tested. So in detention, you know, trying to get 2 aspirin on a normal day is difficult. Can you imagine how difficult it is with COVID-19? So the stories that I'm hearing from members of the detained, if everybody's sick, people have fevers, they have bodies, they have nausea, they have all these symptoms, but until their fever spikes to a really like over 3 years ago, that's when they start medical attention, or they do because they get moved out of where they are. So they're moving to another part of the state, which is an epidemic thing, but it seems like that's it. But the other thing is that
a little bit, but I think you were talking about the fact that it's so hard, the testing in general, that it is difficult for these populations to be tested. Do we have any figures which
well, the other thing you have to understand,
sure it's got to be next to impossible. Do we have any national, regional?
Well, no. There's places where you can see that, like, I know where there are outbreaks across the country. Elizabeth, there's positive tests. Aurora, Colorado, there's positive tests. Florence, Arizona, there's positive tests. I imagine there's positive tests everywhere. The thing that you also have to remember in this whole situation is ICE, they're liars, right? And when asked to like come in and answer to these questions, you, generally speaking, even in like aggressive legal inquiries, get the same line of shit from them, which is, sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
No,
but but which is the number one line is, you know, ICE is committed to the health and safety of every single person in their custody. So you say, like, look, we're going to need to understand your testing schemes. We're going to need to see daily updates of how many people have been diagnosed with this disease and where, because we have vulnerable clients and we need to know how to protect them. Go off and say, ICE is committed to the health and safety of every single person in their custody. I've had them say this to me in response to my clients dying in custody. When I'm accusing them of doing things that cause my clients to pass away, the line I get from them in response is just reminding me how the agency is committed to the health and safety. This agency is not accountable to anyone. And that's why we as the public have to make them accountable to us, which I think is what Kathy's talking about.
Yeah.
I do see Justice. I wanted to jump in here. I'm sorry, everybody, but I do see Justice coming on the stream. He's had some technical difficulties, and he's looked like he's just setting up his shot. So I see you, Justice, if you hear us, and I do apologize for the technical issues. But I will. He's got some. He's had some firsthand experience with being incarcerated, and I know that's going to be very important to the discussion. So we'll definitely let him speak here in just a second. But I do, as far as testing and everybody, we had an interview earlier today with Erica, a comrade whose husband is incarcerated at the ICE facility in Elizabeth. They're not testing them. They're not testing them. If they say anybody has it, they have no idea what's going on. They simply, if you get symptoms, you are dragged out of your cell and you're put in a separate part of the facility. And that's it. That's all is happening right now. So any claims by ICE officials, Joey D, and the fuck-stained shit pigs that are locking up human beings for money can all go fuck themselves. Because we know, and everybody knows, they're not even testing. They're going to throw them like animals into other cages, and they're going to act like the fucking pigs that they are. I'm going to let in Justice now and talk. All right. Bye. That's why I jump in and do my thing. I'll be back.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Just say that we have.
Hey, Juan. What's up, everybody?
Hi, Justice. So for our viewers who don't know Justice, which I know most
I'm sorry?
do, I was just saying I'm going to give you a little intro for our viewers who don't know Justice, but I think most of our viewers do. Justice Rountree has worked with prisoner reentry, worked with the movement to end solitary confinement, and Justice has his own personal experience with incarceration and with
The volume went out a little bit.
solitary sure. Yeah, we're having some technical difficulties. It's the state.
I got you, comrade.
Man.
I got you, Diane. When Diane gets her little flubs, I'll pop in.
Oh, he's at it.
We got that down. I'm right here, comrade. I got you if you drop out, but you're back in live.
Okay. I'm sure we're being messed with by all sorts of government entities who don't want us on, right? So, Justice, we were just talking about COVID-19 in immigration detention, but our topic this evening was also about incarceration in general. So you spent a good amount of time in incarceration, and I'm sure you've seen how our prison systems fail even when they don't have the chaos that is COVID-19. So would you be able to give us the day in the life of somebody who is seriously ill and incarcerated in New Jersey?
Sure. First and foremost, thank New Jersey Revolution Radio, Brian Powers, Diane, and our esteemed guests. I've been listening the whole time.
Cool.
I was actually doing a virtual open mic poetry show. I was participating in one simultaneously, so that caused to a little of me. But I left them. I abandoned them for the grass is greener over here.
Well, thank you.
But yeah, so you mentioned that I was in prison before, and to answer your question, well, you said a day in the life, or what is it like in that environment under these circumstances? And before I even get into that, I'll just speak to the fact that myself, as well as a lot of other people that I work with or I just know that have had that lived experience of being incarcerated, we all feel like we've been like prepared for this, because this is isolation. So we're kind of like in society, but this is very natural. We've had to learn to adjust and adapt to having nothing and to being able to do nothing and go nowhere and not interact with anybody. And so I think that there's a lot that could come from that, not all positive. But yeah, so I spent over 2 decades inside prison. I wasn't a model inmate at all, by far. I never even considered myself an inmate. I was always a prisoner. By definition, somebody held against their own will. So I'm very mindful of my language. So, but I wasn't what what they would call a model inmate. So I was experienced. I mean, first of all, it's important for everybody to understand we're in a very tricky situation. So there's so many different levels to this. And I don't know how much time we got, but do you mind if I kind of walk through what my process has been?
Go ahead. Brian will yell at us if we're running out of time. So go
Cool.
for it.
This is a really important topic, and Justice has a lot to say, and I will extend the show hours. Well, not hours, but we definitely got some extra minutes for you, comrade.
Go for it. Yeah.
All right. Cool. And I appreciate the attorneys. I'm sorry, I forgot your name. You were giving some accounts to your client and them being in ICE and everything, and I really felt that. So I'm sorry I don't remember your
Allegra.
name. But Allegra?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So nice to meet you. But so the first thing is like we're in a tricky area all across the board. I think we all could admit that. And inside prison, social distancing is impossible. First of all, because you are incarcerated, locked in a cage with another person. So I'm an advocate for. Well, first of all, you know, I consider myself like an abolitionist. I want to abolish prisons first and foremost. That's my original starting point. However, I'm an advocate for, you know, the rights and equalities and the justice inside for all people. Actually, fighting for the rights of those people that are incarcerated. The only response that the DOC is going to have, which they're already doing, is to lock people in. And that's not COVID-19, that's anything. Anything that goes on. If me and Diane hypothetically got into an argument inside the prison, everybody's getting locked in. I remember there was an earthquake, a subtle earthquake in New Jersey maybe about 10 years ago, and their response was to lock everybody in. And, you know, me, I didn't lock in, and then it all got back to normal when the earth stopped shaking. But I was like, wow, you wanted us to go lock in. The COs were scared. Nobody knew what the hell happened. So their response, and just like in New Orleans with people in Hurricane Katrina, so me advocating for people to have social distancing in prison, to have the necessary sanitary products, the treatment, everything, almost I'm asking for them to be isolated, because that in this particular case, that's the actual best remedy for COVID-19 is to isolate. So it's a very tricky situation, because what is my ask? Other than, yes, we need the proper cleaning stuff. And I'm currently I work with a coalition called New Jersey Cake, which is the campaign for alternatives to isolated confinement. It's a coalition comprised of organizations, individuals, faith-based organizations, people from the ACLU, the New Jersey Institute. Everybody has representatives at the table. We've gotten a lot of criminal justice reform bills passed in the last 9 months or so. And I'm saying all that just to say that they're actively working on trying to get more people out. You alluded to that earlier, right? People that are getting out in May, they could get out now.
Yeah.
Right. So there's small fringe things that we can do, get people out, you know, that are gonna get out anyways. And I just hate when they say non-violent people, and this everybody I met in prison had some type of violent case. So you really just like limiting, you're making it look like you're doing something good as a government agency, but people need to get out. They need to be able, safety is the priority here. And you can't keep people safe. We have several incidents with officers, correctional officers that have tested positive. The correctional officers are saying that they don't have the proper cleaning product. I got a post. I was connected with somebody today that used to work in the prison. There's a woman in Adam Manahan prison, and she's describing what they're doing. They were moved from an isolated area of the prison into an open space dormitory area of the prison. The night that she got there, she got sick, got a fever. Everybody that they bring on there immediately gets sick. There's no remedy. So let me be clear about this, because I've seen it at its worst. I've been in like prison riots. Every time we even thought about doing a hunger strike, I was with it. Anytime we was gonna do a protest, I was with it. Anytime, and I did 23 years inside there. And anytime we wanted to uprise or challenge the injustices, I was always guaranteed to be with it. And it was always failed and sold out by other people. They were always able to find weak people to sell the movement out, come snatch the person out that had, that was organizing it or whatever, lock the people up before it even gets started. I'll be in the yard sharing thoughts with somebody, come in and they'd be like, come here, put the handcuffs on me and put me in detention. I don't know how they had this type of intelligence, but that's how it goes in there. And I'm saying all that just to say that those are my experiences. I wasn't somebody that was not subject to seeing how they deal with situations. And beyond any shadow of a doubt, the way people are getting treated in there is non-humane. Like you said, you were working on these issues prior to COVID-19. That's the culture. So there is no remedy. You could guarantee there's no recourse. I got JPay emails I still have to look at now. I wanted to look at them. I didn't get time to prepare for this show to see what the latest conversation was. But all they doing is just locking them in, and they're just subject and exposed to any virus or germs that the officer is going to bring in there, right?
Yeah.
So
and they can't
there's
escape.
no officers, and when I see and hear officers, corrections officers, or people that are leaders in that area, they I've never seen them advocate on behalf of the human bodies that are incarcerated in there. I've never heard them say anything, care, or say that we have the procedures for everybody. That's not even a consideration. We are not human beings. That's exactly how they look at my people that's still in there. And I appreciate Revolution Radio, Diane, and everybody for being advocates. I'm an advocate because I lived it, right? So I don't know if I would have always been an advocate if I would have had a different way of life. So I appreciate y'all for being selfless enough to advocate for those who it's guaranteed, man. They're just suppressed. There's nothing. You can't get adequate medical attention under normal circumstances.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You can't. And on top of that, you can't get you can't get a COVID-19 test out here.
Yeah.
Right? Just think about how hard it would be for you
to
get a COVID-19 test. I don't care if you're sneezing and everything. You're going to have to jump through all types of hoops as a quote-unquote citizen. So imagine what those who are deemed to not even be citizens are suffering through. Imagine as we have to sit in our residences and we have to limit our movements.
Yeah.
You know, I said early on, I know tons of people that would give an arm, give a body part to be quarantined inside their house.
Yeah. I know we have the privilege to be able to jump 6 feet away from the few people we do encounter. But if you're locked up, you don't have the 6 feet. You don't have the Clorox wipes. You don't have the soap and water. You don't have the Lysol spray. You don't have the square footage that your average, North Jersey, New York City, we're the epicenter of COVID-19 right now. And we have so many people incarcerated right now who every day they have shift changes of the correction officers who monitor them. It's just a constant flood. I can't imagine, because I'm able to, fairly recently, I was walking down the street and a couple of teenagers were heading my way. And I'm just thinking, young people who have been all mixing with each other. I'm like, 6 feet. They can't get 6 feet away from their correction officers or their fellow inmates. And
I want to put a link up. It's a link at the NJ Cake website. We
Sorry.
actually have a letter to governor. Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me?
Allegra, did you want to jump in something?
Well, I just wanted to respond to something you said. I don't know if that's possible.
Okay.
I think we're back.
It's like a delay, so I don't know.
Yeah, we're having a little bit of trouble. Allegra, go ahead.
Sorry.
Allegra, go ahead.
Oh, I was just responding to one of the last things you said was that this was selfless to be thinking of people on the inside, but I don't necessarily agree, because I see it's all really connected, and my life and my well-being and the well-being of my community has to be connected to the well-being of people who are incarcerated and people who are detained and in confinement. And I think this assumes everyone to understand that, and that these ecosystems and these communities are far more connected than we know, then we can understand that liberation of incarcerated people equals our liberation as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that was always true, and something that we talk about, like the way that we treat people when they're incarcerated, really will be reflected in our society, right?
Yep.
So if you treat people poorly, you treat people like animals, right? They're not going to come out of jail and behave like, model citizens, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure there's plenty of examples of people being the exception to that rule, but we're creating this issue, and now that we have COVID-19 here, what happens inside the jail gets out. It's not a sealed environment, it's like just as Diane was saying, you have 3 shifts of guards, and it's not just the guards, it's guards, kitchen workers. There's a tremendous amount of outside people who need to so they're going back home every night with family and picking up whatever you get outside and bringing it to jail. And the people who are inside the jail are sitting ducks. And then what's going to happen is that we're going to have an outbreak in one of these jails, and then it'll come back in the community the same way it went into the jail.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But it's kind of a moment where we can talk about those things, which is, as terrible as the situation is, there's a light here, because there are people getting together and talking about these things now, which is really, hopeful to me and had tough to see.
Yeah, and it's exposing what has always been there. It's always been there, and it was a community we don't see it, we forget about it, but it's always been there, and there's no excuse for treating people without dignity.
And what I will, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Delayed.
Yeah.
I wanted to share before I forget. There's a letter that the coalition put together, between ACLU, American Friends, New Jersey Cake, everybody, a whole bunch of people. We got a letter to Governor Murphy asking, pretty much asking for the release of several prisoners, different types of prisoners. You could go to the website, which is njcaic.org, NewJerseyCake.org, and you can sign the letter and send it to the governor if that's one of the avenues that we're going. Like I said, the ACLU they're working on, they're in constant communication, and I'm actually trying to one of my colleagues, a national person from the National Religious Campaign Against Torture, the Johnny Perez, the director of that organization, gave me a call the other day and asked me if I would be interested in trying to lead some efforts and having a sit down with some of maybe the DOC officials and seeing if there's some common ground that we can kind of agree that there's things that both affect both of these populations equally from a safety perspective, and maybe because you got to outsmart these people sometimes, quite frankly. They're not the brightest people in the world. So sometimes you have to see the opportunity maybe to get them to advocate for your cause when they don't even know that's what they're doing. A little bit of that going on. I mean, like I said, I got a my personal views is one thing, but those are some of the things that are actively going on. I'm working on that with some of y'all know Pastor Amos Kelly from the Reformed Church of Highland Park. So me and him, we're working on getting with some of those officials and making sure that the voices. That's one of my key things, is to make sure that I'm a voice of the people. I've sat down with the Department of Corrections and had letters from some of my friends and said, no, this is what's going on there.
Yeah.
So just to hold their feet to the fire, let them know, no, this is what's going on there. So what are we going to do about it?
Yeah.
We're not going to have a conversation about this isn't happening or that's not happening or it's not like that. I don't need any interpretation of what's happening.
It's happening.
Cruelty and torture going on. And I want to have a conversation and know if we're going to do something about it, because if we don't, they're going to be in jeopardy as well.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just pop in here real quick. Justice, you got to stick around for commercials, man, because we got plugs of positive and beautiful things that you do as well, man. No, I appreciate, I appreciate
But am I on here saying, hey, Brian, am I on here sounding like the angry black man? Again?
I didn't. No, come on, just stop. We're public.
Joking,
We got to talk about that when we drink in private.
Right.
Come on, man. Showtime.
Hey, Brian, I might not ever be able to come over there again, man.
It's
a new era.
You will come over here again, my brother. You will come over here again.
It's a new era, man.
I promise you will be here again, comrade. We will stay healthy and safe, and we will drink and do our thing again. And we're going to get back to you. We want to make sure everybody's get a chance to talk about their organizations and their work. We can contact them, all that. But Justice, you got to stick around, because we're going to talk. We want to wrap it up by talking about the beautiful, wonderful work that you do in Newark. All right.
Yep. So, Allegra, where can people go to maybe help contribute to your org or get more information? So now's the time to plug your orgs.
Oh, well, our organization, the one I run, is called Santa Fe Dreamers Project, and you can just Google it. Okay. And we definitely need donations. I also am like a little reluctant to solicit donations right now. I think it's time to be looking, and I have faith that when the time comes, we're going to have the help we need. Again, like if you got $1 million and you're feeling it, we want the money, but
definitely.
But yeah, I'm just a little uncomfortable at the moment soliciting donations. My board is probably like, thank God none of them are listening to this, because they'd be like, what are you doing?
I might want to.
But we should follow the Santa Fe Dreamers Project.
Yeah, we have a lot of really great information. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for being on, Allegra.
Cool, thanks.
Allegra, that's dope. I couldn't hear what she was saying, though.
Thanks. And sorry, we're having some. Are we back on? Can you hear me, Kathy?
I can hear you.
There you go.
Yeah. So you want to tell us what you're up to and what orgs, where people can get more information to plug in with what great works you're doing?
Sure. I'm with Pax Christi, New Jersey. It's New Jersey region of Pax Christi, USA. So if you want to donate to Pax Christi USA, because I don't deal with money. It's paxchristiusa.org, and I'm sure they'd love to have some money. But in terms of what we're doing, I've actually was interesting. What Justice was talking about, that letter, I actually just signed that letter on behalf of Pax Christi, New Jersey. And we wrote our own letter with Resist Deportation Machine, which is a coalition of, and we got I think about 30 different groups to sign on to it. And we referenced that letter and said that we want to specifically talk about, though, the immigrant detainees, but that we were in support of the goals of that coalition too. So our goal is to, as Allegra was saying, free them all, right? So the immigrants don't need to be in detention. So if you want to hashtag free them all, you'll see a lot of great orgs that are doing work today. In fact, I didn't even know when we were driving around Newark. I was parked for a minute, and I happened to notice that Freedom to Thrive, which is a great organization, was doing a call-in that day, like as we were driving around the federal building, they were calling John Sakaris, so who's the director of the ICE in Newark. So we ended up connecting on Twitter, and they were like amplifying what we were doing. So
great. Connecting.
there's
Good.
stuff going on. Freedom Wall for Public Health are two hashtags you can look at on Facebook and on Twitter. New Jersey Advocate for Immigrant Detainees, a Facebook page you can look at. COSECHA is doing great work.
Yep.
So there's kind of AFSC, the Immigrant Rights Program in Newark. So there's just a ton of people flooding the space and pushing really hard. I mean, this could be a tipping point in immigration detention, and hopefully could be a tipping point too for how we treat people in who are incarcerated. So.
Yeah. I mean, these problems were always there. We're just seeing the ugly of it all, but this was always there.
I think people don't understand just how isolated people in detention are. It's not just ICE, it's also the county jails. I mean, the county jails are really awful when it comes to first of all, they're not meant to hold people for long periods of time, but they are now. And the fact that they're all trying to make money off of the people they're incarcerating is just disgusting.
Yeah.
And then the fact that they are not transparent organizations, and everything that Allegra was saying about ICE was like, we have the same issue with the county. So
yeah. So let's continue to fight, and we'll be fighting after COVID-19, but we're not going to stop fighting. We're going to do creative actions, Zoom calls, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Doing the best out there. Justice, come back for your commercial. Come on, man. Yeah, Justice is
I
cooking.
haven't left y'all.
I'm hungry, man.
I'm just being like, taskful over here. So
we had to shift gears a little bit, man, because but definitely I talked about the beautiful things you do. What's going on? How are you doing it virtually, man? Like everything's been called off. We couldn't hang out. They're on Broad Street. I missed it, man. I missed it, right? Bad.
Yeah, it was. I mean, there's been people. There's been people that really expressed that. I missed it, of course, but there's been a lot of people that hit me on posts and they said, "Yo, sitting here bored." So I missed them. You never know how much you miss something until it's gone and all that type of stuff. So yeah, so 360. I guess commercial wise, 360 Poetry Night. See, I got the shirt on, which Revolution Radio is a consistent sponsor of an open mic poetry show out of North New Jersey, featuring some of the most acclaimed and world-renowned artists in the history of New Jersey on that stage. If we on hold for now, we're probably gonna do a little something on the virtual tip. I just want to do something different. I actually have a big name that I want to interview, who's a friend of mine, but he's also a former platinum selling artist, and he's also a community person though. So I think it would be interesting to do some stuff with 360 Poetry Night and art and speaking to some of these issues all combined for that whole 360 degrees. See how I did that?
Yeah. Cool.
But anybody that wants to contact me and just do some dope stuff, whether it's in social justice or art, it's all one stream to me.
Yeah.
It's Justice Rountree on Facebook and Instagram, And during the day, I do some pretty dope work as well. I don't know if you want to share that, but I work in mental health. So it's really been insightful to see those people are really in need. People with mental health challenges and illnesses, and not only people incarcerated, but people out here are doing pretty bad as well. And there's people that just need to talk to people. There's people that really, they don't even want to talk to people. They want to be around people. Some people need that type of actual camaraderie, that type of support. And they're not getting that because everything's shut down. So not only will I be doing some, because we were just about to have probably the largest mental health and wellness and arts event that the state of New Jersey was going to see on the 21st of
You're gearing up for that one.
I had several sponsors, and it's only postponed. So that's something that's really dear to me. And so don't be surprised that not only will I do some art stuff, but I'm also in talks with doing something that might incorporate art, but be focused on our wellness.
Great.
In every aspect. I'd really love to do that. You know, it's just
Excellent.
sometimes I can't mix the two worlds. Like I was just on a podcast where they told me don't curse.
What the fuck?
And now I'm on a podcast where I'm about to light it. And now I'm on a podcast where I'm about to light a blunt. Right? So, I mean,
that's right. He knows where he's at.
Every platform isn't the same, so it's difficult. I'm just saying it's difficult to find spaces where I could, you know, do it with us on one tip, but also if we're gonna do mental health and wellness, we gotta be careful about our language and things like that, and you know, our interactions, you know. So
all right, man.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all right.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, we wanted to give you time. I got one last thing before we sign off. And that's www.njrevolutionradio.com. We just revamped the website. You see, I'm scrolling it here now. It's pretty. It's not as busy. I really like it. You can see there's players on screen for our 2 featured shows, videos. We're still building it out. I want to thank everybody that's given a few dollars. I know we had a shy guest asking for donations. I will not be so shy. Comrade Trump is sending out wealth distribution checks. We will take a couple of those dollars if you can spare it, please. We'll make great use of it. It goes directly towards supporting these streams and making sure, you know, when we can go somewhere, we have gas money to get there, and that we can continue to grow this thing, because we have not. There are still people locked up. There's still injustice in the world. We're in the middle of a pandemic, but we do not mourn. We organize. Diane, what you got before we sign off?
I don't. I'm just going to tell folks to.
All right. Well, then let me wrap it up. Then let me wrap it up.
Stay well. Stay home.
No, we got to do it in order. It's a repetitive radio trick.
Okay.
We got to do it. We got to do it the way.
I wrecked it. Go for
it's okay. Next Wednesday, we will be back right here. We will be virtual again. We're going to stay away from people. We're going to wash our hands. We're going to go to commieson.com and read a downloadable PDF book called No More Measles by Lori Endicott, who's very, very smarter than all of us on viruses and things alike, and community health and all that. So please check that out. But until then, this is Brian Powers, and I want to remind you that the police, they can quit their jobs.
And this is Diane saying, I don't want to see you in the streets. I want to see you at home, and I'll see you on a Zoom video or a StreamYard video soon. Stay healthy.
Good night, everybody.